Today, this is Saturday, May 30th. I'm John Huffstetter, and we are hosting NWBA Digital Demo number 6. Today's demo is from Kurt Fisk. He's a farrier from Oregon Forge Works in Bend, Oregon. He's a blacksmith, a bladesmith, and from what I've seen on his Instagram page, Oregon Forge Works, all one word, he makes some amazing tools as well. He tells me he's just kind of a tinkerer in the shop. In any case, today he's going to be making a couple of horseshoes from scratch. I'm going to leave that to him to talk about. Before we get started, though, I want to cover a little bit of administrivia. NWBA is offering our series of digital demos since we don't have our conference this spring and because the Mentoring Center is currently unavailable. I know we're all looking forward to getting back together around a real forge and tools, but until we can, we want to give our members a chance to share what they're doing and give y'all a chance to watch it. I want to thank Claire Guy, Kellen Batum, Bhakti Sa, Dan Boyer, Louis Raffleur, Frank Bobbio, and other members of the board and communications committee for figuring out how we can do these things and getting the series up and running. I know it's not a replacement for the hands-on stuff, but we hope it fills some of that empty space we're all feeling until we can get together for real. A little bit about how Zoom works. Obviously, if you're signed in, you already got a little bit of a handle. We've got the spotlight on Kurt. He's going to do his demo, just like we're in the bleachers. The interweb being what it is, expect some audio and video glitches. They pop up periodically, sometimes on our end and sometimes on the demos. Be patient. If you do have a problem and you really need to get in contact with us, shoot us an email. Most of us are, got multiple screens up trying to keep up with things. And we'll relay questions and things to Kurt as they come in on the chat. I talked a little bit about how to access your chat or QA functions. Just click the bottom of your Zoom screen. You'll get a little menu bar pop up. When you see the option of sending to all panelists or all panelists and attendees, please select the latter so that we can all see your questions. We only have a few rules. Please be respectful in your comments. Keep your language clean. These things are supposed to be collegial and kid-friendly, so shoot for the G or at least the PG level. But we do welcome your chats and questions. They are recorded, so they will be available after the session when we finally get them posted up to the website. All right, it's time for me to stop talking and Kurt to start. So Kurt from Oregon Forge Works in Bend, Oregon, over to you, dude.
Morning, guys. Thanks for joining me. Glad to have you in the shop, so to speak. So what we're going to run through today is I was asked to go through what a farrier kind of does as far as somebody that's not using mainly store-bought shoes. I would say I probably build about 60% of my shoes, and then I will use some pre-manufactured shoes. The nice thing about building shoes over pre-manufactured shoes is usually the manufactured shoes will run almost 3/4 of an inch to an inch in different size in your perimeter of the shoe. Whereas I can measure and cut exactly what I want with that foot, which saves me a lot of time in my truck at the grinder, or if I'm at a contest, it saves me a lot of time on a hot rack. So this is a concave shoe, front shoe with a toe clip. So this is a shoe that I would put on every day. This is a shoe that I may make at the horse. When I have some time, I usually jump in here and I will make truck shoes. So these will all be cut in 1/4 inch increments, and then I'll make shoes that fit 1/4 inch increments. So again, then I can go to the truck. I can go to the truck after I've measured the foot, and I can pull out exactly what I want. This is a same version of the steel. This is called a concave steel section, and it's specifically made for horses, for shoeing horses and making horseshoes. And this would be a typical hind shoe. So this is the stock that we're going to start with for the front shoe, and you can see the profile of it. So it all comes like this, and the nice thing is that it comes in multiple different sections. Right? You get this from 5/16 thick to 1/2 inch thick. And then on my width end, I can get it from 5/8 all the way up to 2-inch. I might even be able to get bigger from England. So this section all started in England, and it kind of revolves around the English field hunting. But it's great for everyday work, and it's quick and easy. Okay, and the second shoe that we're going to build is, this is a more traditional shoe. This would be on, we put on a cart horse that would be working on the cobblestones. So you can see that one of the things we're going to do is we're going to upset the toe, and it has a very thick toe in it. Otherwise, these shoes would have been worn out really quickly. It requires a lot of forging. We're going to start with 11 inches of 1/2 by 1, and I'm going to probably try to put 3/4 of an inch into the toe in the first bump. And then we'll go to drawing the section out. You can see how we have a nice solid toe, and then the section comes out. And you can see in this one, this is the fault of the shoe. This is one of the tests of this shoe. This ends up on a lot of contests. So you can see that I altered the section a little too much here. You can see it's a little narrowed up, and then it's a little thicker here. So that's something that a contest would have knocked me down. We don't typically nail these shoes on anymore, mostly because that was a day when we were using horses as work. All right, and I think, unless there's any quick questions, we're going to get the steel in the fire and kind of crack on. And how I'm going to do this is I'm going to build both shoes at the same time to give you an idea of how we might go about this at a contest setting. So contest setting, we have to build 2 shoes in an hour. And a lot of times, the heavier shoe we might be building with a striker, with somebody with a sledge. But a lot of times these guys like to give you a heavy shoe and then a light shoe to kind of throw you through a loop. Because the concave section, you have to really baby it. It is not a lot of forging except for the heels and the clip. It is mostly just turning and using your anvil right, and using the horn of your anvil right. And the roadster shoe is a lot of heavy forging. So I'm working out of a coke fire today. This is what we compete out of. And I really like it. It's a fast, clean heat. And it allows me to get really good forging temperatures fairly fast. Any questions, John?
Sorry, Kurt, I was temporarily muted. The question we have from Bob Johnson is about not nailing the shoe on. How is it attached?
It is attached with horseshoe nails. Give me just a second and I can pull that one up. I'm going to lift this up in the fire. That is also the nice thing about coke, is you move it up and down. This is the bottom black forge. So Bob, you can see the nail holes through the shoe there. So I use a horseshoe nail to attach that to the horse's butt. And that's where really the art of this comes in, because we need to match that shape. When we're nailing up shoes, we are dealing with millimeters of clearance on the side of soft tissue and sensitive tissue. And it would be akin to putting a hole through the insensitive tip of the fingernail. If you trim that back too far, you're never going to be able to get that hole in there. You're going to feel that every time. So that's where coming up and being able to modify these shoes to the horse's butt is critical in the job. Hopefully that answered that question. Okay, so we've got a nice forging heat here. Again, not forging, so I'll bring it up to the horn, and all I'm going to do is start And I'm making a front shoe, so it's going to have a really bold, broad toe in it. So I get something that's pretty close. I can see that I have a whoopie there. I need to bring that in just a little bit. We're going to just go past the horizon point of the horn, pull it back, clean that section up, kind of take that out. So I'm going to lay in my toenails, the first set of nails. And this is a 4-punch. So this makes the spot for the head of the nail to sit in the section. Then we'll go back in and get our next beat on this. So when I'm working a coke fire and I'm doing this, I'm going to take that and I'm going to move that to the side. And ideally, if I was in a contest, I'd have done that better. And while I was working at the anvil, I would have had that in the hot spot of the fire so that I could come out and crack on with it right away. Any more questions, John?
Not so far. Just a comment about the speed.
So
I don't know.
when we're
I don't know
shooting
whether.
horses, especially when we're going, we need to be. We can't have the horses out all day long, right? They run out of quarters, unfortunately. Some faster than others. So if you're going to be making your shoes, you've got to be kind of tuned up so that you can crack right on and go and get them on the feet. So this is almost up to temperature. I'm going to bring it out, and I did mark, sorry I didn't show you guys, but I did mark where I want the center of my toe to be on this. I marked it up on the end of the section so that I can push my toe around if I need to. I'm going to come out, and I'm going to quench out both ends of the bucket to about a little over ½ an inch on either side of that center mark. And then I'm going to upset this section to build that good strong toe and give me some material to forge. Sorry, John, what was the question? What was that about?
I think it was
Did that
Bhakti
answer
Saw.
the comment?
Bhakti Saw commented on the speed that you were working, and I think you answered the one about the nails. So that's we're caught up on the questions.
Okay.
Just a reminder to everybody, please select all panelists and attendees as the address for your chats so we can all see them.
Okay, so I didn't get my center mark ideal in there, so it's better instead of me going in and trying to upset that steel right now because it's going to just go to the hotter spot. I want to get that heat evened out through my center mark. And sometimes just a quick few seconds is going to save you a lot of work down the road.
Okay, we do have another question.
Go for it.
How often do you have a need for making custom tooling farrier work?
Depends on the concept, to be honest. The farrier work, the tooling for farrier work, typically is pretty straightforward. It's some sort of a puller to put a crease in a shoe, something to make a spot for the nail head to sit, and then a critchel that knocks the sludge out of the nail head. Or out of the hole that I made for the nail head. Ooh, airball. Oh, that's 3/4 of an inch. So you can see how I've upset my section. Is that a good view?
Yeah, that looked good.
Okay. Okay, now back to luck forging.
So here's another question for you.
Yep.
Since you do farrier work and blacksmithing work, why do you use a light round peen hammer over a heavier cross peen hammer?
The rounding hammer is great for, you'll see, I'll make it a point when I break the toe in the next shoe. It's nice to be able to break that toe with that. And I use the cross peen when I need more focus work. As far as the hammer weight, I got to swing this all day long. But if you have good position, this is the 2 1/4 pound hammer. I can get a lot done, and you'll see what I can get done here in a second with that big section of steel. Okay, so mark my nail holes. This is the 4 punch. I want to go just in front of the halfway point of that shoe. But again, this is the beauty of making shoes. Say I have a horse that busted a big hunk out of its foot. I can put those nail holes wherever you need to make it. So right now, the other thing about horseshoeing is it's got to be safe. So all I'm doing is taking the hammer and I'm knocking that edge off. Because we're going to fit that back of that foot with a little bit of expansion. The hook capsule is what I call a semi-plastic material. Every time the horse steps and loads, it moves. So I need to make sure that I have enough steel outside so that as those heels come out, as that horse loads, it stays on top of the shoe. So what I'm using right now is a prickle. And that just knocks out the little bit of slug that I created with the four punch and puts the nail holes in the shoe. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to go to the hot rasp real quick and just clean this stuff up. Again, this is something that would happen in the contest. In everyday work, I would be using a grinder today. This vise was developed by one of my fellow competitors. You can see that it's got two separate independent jaws. And what it does is it allows it to grab in two different places. And you don't end up having a shoe spinning all over the place and burning your arm. So what I just put on the shoe is what we call boxing. And that's what we use to keep the horse safe. It also helps keep the shoes on so the horse doesn't step them off out the pasture. Okay, so now I'm going to come out, get a heat on this. We're pretty close there. Put it in the hot spot of the fire. Now I'm going to use the round side of my hammer to break this toe.
Hey, Kurt, a couple of comments from folks. When
Yep.
you're doing the really loud work, it's kind of hard to hear you. So maybe just adjust your comments a little bit. Hold them off while you're doing the loud stuff.
Okay, sounds good. That's good. It'll give me time to breathe.
Yeah, I've noticed that about you farriers. You work so fast that you don't appear to breathe.
Okay, so we're going to come out. See that? Now this is I'm using the round side of the hammer. As we're turning that, we're getting a buckling effect. Come back through, seat this out. You don't want the inside web of the steel higher than the outside web. There's more sensitive material on the inside of the horse's foot. And that's not the bearing surface that we want the shoe sitting on. So I'll give it a quick brush up. seating it out and bringing that back to less than half an inch on the inside web. I'm kind of just looking if my toe is somewhat organized and I'm ready. Because what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to come out here and I'm going to start drawing on there. This is going to be drawn down to about 5/8. And this will be the inside of the shoe. Okay.
So I got a
Yep.
got another question for you. When you have a moment, maybe toward the end, give us a close-up of that vise. A lot of enthusiasm about seeing that vise.
Anybody who's done any hot wraps and burnt their arm pretty good, I'm sure. I thought my kettlebell workouts were hard.
So usually toward the end of the session, we'll get a little shop tour. Maybe you can revisit the setup on your anvil and stand and stuff back when we get toward the end.
Will do. Yeah. Okay, so you can see there, this is the inside branch of the shoe. So all I did there was I just tightened this section up a little bit. And again, this is the side that, say the horse is standing in a stall and it's stomping at flies, I really need to make sure that it's safe. And I don't know if you can see, but I'm picking up on my heel here a little bit. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this section and I'm going to fold it over. And as I do that, I want everything to come to center. So I'll pick up my tongue hand just slightly. And you can see how that brings that in to center. Now I don't need a ton of heat to turn this shoe if I'm using the horn properly. I'm hitting just beyond the point of contact. This is a good heat to still punch nail holes. So in a contest, when you're in an individual class, you got to keep track of that fire. When you have a striker, it's nice because they're your firemen. So you don't have to be looking over your shoulder all the time to see if that monster in there's going to eat your shoe up. That's John. It almost happened to me during the preview. Especially these lighter sections, they will disappear quick. All right. And there's a basic horseshoe. The next thing I'm going to do to finish this one off is I'm going to put a clip in it. We're going to put a toe clip in it. So we'll just set that up on top of the fire.
So Kurt,
okay. Yeah.
I didn't want to interrupt. You go ahead with your thought.
Go for it. What do you got?
So one of the questions was, how much analysis do you do on the horse's gait and adjust and correct problems like that? That I assume that's part of your training.
It is. Ideally, you know, I work in the sport horse industry, so I'm seeing a lot of horses that are jumping, working at speed, Yeah, and that's something we really have to take into account and how that horse is moving and the conformational defects of the limb. So a lot of times we can do modifications to the shoe to help that out. Okay. And again, that can either be done with a hammer, it can be done with a grinder, but it all comes down to being able to fit what you trim. So you got to trim the foot, and you got to be able to get that on there safely, or it doesn't matter what you have. I mean, you can buy store-bought shoes, and just to give you an idea, this would be a therapeutic shoe. This is what we call a heart lock. So this is something we might do if a horse had sore heels or other issues. We put this on, and what that does is it's going to distribute the weight of the horse instead of an open-heeled shoe, like the one I'm making. It's going to distribute that weight of that horse's foot all the way through the weight-bearing structure. I hope that answers that question. Okay, so on the roadster, we build the inside branch first. And like I said, the traction feature that's on this is called the wedge. This is on the medial branch. And we put the wedge on the medial branch because it is the same side. It is tapered off like a pyramid. So again, I'm going to shift, touch up this. I'm going to swing it down the horn so that I kind of get that started. I'm going to pre-rect the inside. And now I'm going to draw this out. So to get the wedge started, I'm just going to knife blade up the end, using the corner of my hammer to start pulling up this section. Gives me something to work from. Still a little bit of heat in there. Can you see it now?
Yeah.
Okay. Sometimes that blurs the camera out a bit. We'll go back in.
So we got one question about what the purpose is for the toe clip on a shoe.
So what it does is it takes the shear force off the nails. Because every time that horse puts its foot down, especially in a reactive footing, you get a lot of shear force on the nails. So by putting clips on, I don't have to use as many nails to properly secure that shoe to the foot. And unfortunately, when we're driving nails, we are creating damage to the hoof wall. Albeit, we want to mitigate as much damage as we can. So we use as few nails as we can, and we use the smaller nails if it's possible. But anytime you're making perforations, we're creating damage. So with the clip on there, it just takes all that shear force off the nails.
All right. I thought you might be interested in knowing that the bids are climbing on your horseshoes. We've got a little auction going, and
they're not done yet, folks.
it doesn't matter. People like to buy what they see being made. So for those of you who are not watching the chat, pull it up now. If this is your chance to get custom-made, honest-to-goodness competition horseshoes and benefit the NWBA. While we have a short pause, I will also put in a plug on our NWBA site, www.blacksmith.org. We have a donate button. We do rely on some income from the events that we currently don't have, the mentoring center and our conference. So for those of you that have a couple of spare pennies, please consider throwing them our way on the donate link on the NWBA page. By all means, contribute to this auction going.
So you
have to outbid Claire.
Draw that section down. Sorry to interrupt you, John.
No worries.
Okay, now it's the start of the clip. So now I'll move to this side of the anvil. And I'll get the section flat. And I'll use the corner of the flat side to walk that steel up. And then come through. And if you're doing that right, that's one of the spots where you actually don't move your tongs. Your tongs will actually hurt you. Because most of the time in horseshoeing, your tongs are doing more of the shoe building than the hammer is. We'll throw that back in and just get an easy heat all the way around it, try to put a better shape to it. And then I'll rest that up, and that shoe will be done. And I can set it to the side, and I can put all my focus on getting this roadster done. And the fun thing about competing or certifications is this stuff really does teach you time management skills, which is really important in your everyday work. It will help you keep moving along, keep you from getting bogged down.
So Billy O followed up with a question about the clip. And I think Billy,
Yep.
I'm seeing, does the toe clip actually piece, but I think he means pierce the hoof, or merely
No.
act as a stop for the hoof to stop sliding forward on the step?
That actually is a stop for that to stop sliding forward. Okay, so on the wedge, I'm going to come over, I'm going to hang a little about 5/8 over, and I'm just going to hit straight down into the corner of the anvil. And now I'm going to start to walk it back up. But this is what we call a graduated shoe. So I'll be 5/8 or be 1/2 inch to 5/8 at the toe thickness wise. And then probably clip to 5/16 at the leading edge of my traction feature. But these aren't making contact with the ground. And just like with the concave when I was doing the middle, as I'm drawing, I want this all to draw to the center. So I'm always coming down, picking up my tong hand just a little bit, ever so slightly. And we want nice, smooth features, so we want to use overlapping blows. Any questions about a coke fire and running it?
No questions about the coke fire yet. Got a couple of, one comment that it's hard to hear you over the hammering. The other one is,
sorry.
are you certified to make throwing shoes?
I didn't know there was a certifying body out there for that.
Oh, I bet there is. I mean, if the cornhole league has it, I'm sure there's a horseshoeing rule making body out there.
We'll have to get a hold of ESPN 8, the Ocho, and see.
I can see a commission coming for you. So the auction is up to $50 for your shoes. Looks like we're going to run a single auction, and the highest bidder gets first right of refusal for which shoe they get.
All right. Glad to help out. So speaking of that, I know you're hard to hear over there, so I'll try to talk loud. But we have an amazing fellowship as far as our industry goes, the farrier industry, and I think the blacksmithing industry, from what I've seen, it does as well. And just to give you an idea of that, we had an unfortunate thing happen. A farrier up in D.C. who has donated a ton of his time. His name is Steve Dixon. And he has donated, I mean, days, weeks, months upon end into certifications and helping other people, judging contests. And judging contests is not easy. Like you're looking at anywhere from 40 to 60 shoes and pairs of shoes and having to judge them. And you have some of the world's top competitors there. It becomes really difficult to do. But Steve unfortunately developed pancreatic cancer. And he got the diagnosis when the virus kind of hit. And unfortunately, they weren't able to do a lot for it, so he's still waiting for some medical treatment. But the art industry got together and stood behind him, and they raised, I think, almost $49,000 for him and his family. And that was around the world. And part of that was guys taking shoes like this and auctioning them off. You know, and they, granted, the guys who were auctioning shoes off were a lot handier than I am. And they were a lot prettier shoes. But it makes you feel good about being part of an industry like that. And like I said, I feel like our blacksmith industry is very similar to like that. We come together and help somebody out in need.
That sounds awesome. Thanks.
Yeah. Okay, so now to get the height I need on this wedge, I'm going to come over the edge of the anvil, set it down so that it makes contact, and now just like drawing the clip, I'm going to switch using the corner of my hammer, and I'm going to take that, and I'm going to bring that section up. And that will give you something to forge on. And start to build that wedge. Now, the trick is I don't want that bearing surface to get any narrower. Otherwise, I'll be in trouble. A judge like Steve Dixon will hammer me on that. Because it's not safe for the horse. We're limiting our bearing surface. And this is one of those things you can't just go berserk on. You got to bring it all together in pieces.
Are there specific specifications you have to meet for that?
Ideally, you want it to be so that if it's bearing, it's going to be a little higher than the thickness here, so that we kind of would maintain a level surface. In contests, it seems like the features have become quite a bit taller, so you'll get judged on that a little more. So then we're going to have an elevated shoe, but that's also would give you more stopping power for pulling the cart or wagon. The specifications are that they should look appropriate size for the shoe. A lot of this, we go off of the golden mean, right? Like, so we know that there's that proportion that just looks right to the eye. So we try to kind of go by that kind of setup. Does that make sense?
So is that more an artistic specification, or does that actually have an actual parallel in science and nature?
It does have a parallel in anatomy, in the anatomy of the horse. Just as it has a parallel through nature. So when we kind of follow that guideline, it turns out that we end up with appropriately what we want for the horse. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So you can see I'm trying to keep that right in the center. So now I've got what I need. So I'm going to come over here. We're going to throw this in the vise. And the rest of the work kind of gets done with the hot wrap. So when you're hot wrapping, always work on your corners first. Go to corner, especially because we want this to be round at the back side. So we'll knock off the corners, and then we'll come through and we'll blend everything together. Sorry, I know I'm blocking the camera.
Oh, we can still see your work.
Okay.
So how often do you have to change out your rasps?
Well, luckily I go through them fairly often, so I'm never in short supply of a good hot wrap. Probably about every other shoe or thereabouts. Okay, so one of the key features is you can see the slope on this. So that is to fit the back, that's to fit the foot. This is going to be fit very tight because it's on the inside. And the heel buttress of the hoof would come down at a very similar angle to this. Oops, trying to get that to the camera, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And again, it's a very safe traction feature. You can see that it tips, sorry, move the camera back. You can see that it tips in the section more than it stands out, right? So this is the outside, to be out the outside of the perimeter. So as this horse is stomping, it's less likely to catch itself. So we'll let that sit. We're gonna go to the other branch. So I don't finish turning that branch because it'll get in the way of me hot rasping on my second, on the outside feature, the pocket that we're gonna put on. I got a good heat on this. Bring this out. A little more. So in a little more. Oh, that's pretty good. Okay, so go over and just gonna do some cleanup work on this real quick, and this shoe will be done. And as farriers, we don't like to see sharp edges on anything. Sharp edges will tear flat. Where are we at time-wise, John?
Oh, we're sitting at about 50 minutes.
Oh, wow. Sorry, talking takes a long time. Sorry about that.
Well, you're talking, but you're also working pretty fast, so.
Oh. Yeah, but we were trying to keep it at an hour, weren't we?
I think you'll be forgiven for running a few minutes over.
Well, that road's still got a bit of fortune, to be honest. Sorry about that. I should have set a timer to keep myself moving. So you can see nice soft edges. We go on a horse and be safe. So we will set this to the side. I'll crack on with this and try to get as much done as I can before everybody runs out of patience. Sorry, Kellen.
So did I hear you say that your rasps last about 2 shoes?
Yeah, 2 to 3 shoes. But you got to remember, I have a plethora of them. I make more every week. So it's easy for me just to, when it gets dull, toss it aside. You mean for hot rasping or for work?
For work.
Oh, for work, I'll get a week and a half probably out of them.
Wow.
Yep. And I buff them. I'll throw them on the buffer with the white compound and clean them up. That helps save a bunch. Okay, so I'm going to flop this over. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to set it on the edge on a soft surface. I'm going to set it up like that. And then I'm going to throw a little heat on it, and I'm going to fold it back the other way, and it helps it just kind of fold quick and easy. Now, the big thing that we need to avoid with these is we need to avoid cold shuts. Cold shuts are, problem is that they're bad enough, that horse goes to stop, and that traction device will shear off. So on a shoe like this, that is something we would be judged pretty hard on. So I'll step to the side of the anvil, a little bit right into the corner, and then I walk it down. And now I'll come back over here, and I'm going to come and I'm going to swing like I'm hitting at my shoes. Now I got to be careful because that wants to already cold shut on me. So I'm going to take, clean that up, and we're going to come back into here. I'm just going to hit into that corner a little more, pull that top part up, start upsetting this into itself. And the other thing I can do, help mitigate that, is again, grab the wooden shoe, start, set that down in front of there, keep that going. Now what we'll do is we'll start turning that into a heel cock. The trick to upsetting things is getting them to pack into themselves and keeping straight lines. You have to have that force traveling in a straight line. If that force isn't traveling in a straight line and down into the base of the anvil, and it wants to bow, if it starts doing this, all your energy is going to run out this. This is going to collapse on itself, and you're going to lose all that material that you're trying to upset into itself.
Good explanation of forging dynamics. I think it's easy, or maybe for some people it's easy to forget that the animal you're dealing with is almost a ton's worth of muscle and bone, and they probably exert a fair amount of force on those things.
Yes, they do. So this is one of these ones where you don't want to do too much. You want to do 1, 2, 3 hits. And that keeps everything from going askew. And ideally want to keep this talking as straight up and down on the backside as possible. Then we don't have to sit with any more length out the back of the foot to get it fit properly when we eat. You can see it starting to shape up. So what I'm doing is I'm making a big block, a square block, and then I'll actually put the shape to it to make it a trapezoid.
while he's tending his fire, back to the auction. We're up to $50 for the auction. Still taking bids. Please put your bids in on the chat screen. And if you don't manage to get that high bid, please once again consider donating to NWBA to help us make up for some of our lost revenue this year. You can do that at the donate link on www.blacksmith.org. If anybody joined after we got started, this is Kurt Fisk from Oregon Forge Works in Bend, Oregon.
So we got that trapezoidal shape going. This will fit the inside of the front. We don't want to keep it a block, even though the block would work. All right, so I'm going to go to finish drawing out the branch, and then we can get to turning the branches and getting nail holes in and wrapping it up for you guys.
So a question about the nomenclature of the shoe.
Yep.
The ends are called branches as opposed to horns or limbs or something like that?
Yep. So just the breakdown of a shoe. This is the toe. This is the branch. These are the heels.
Okay.
Set that up there and work back to myself. Because this is, oops, sorry, I'll wait till I'm done touching. So what I was saying is because this is a forged shoe, we need to make sure that that is drawn to length before we go ahead and put the rest of the art in that branch. It becomes increasingly difficult to maintain your section over the horn if you need to make that grow at all. So you saw me measuring there. I know when I continue the branch around the horn, I'm going to lose about 3/4 of an inch on my measurement from toe to heel.
So I'm going to echo a comment from Claire Guy. Love seeing you use all the surfaces on your anvil for various processes, like using the step there for the clip. I've noticed you use the Hardy for the same thing.
Yeah, there was an old gentleman by the name of Jay Sharp. Some of you may actually have some of Jay's hammers. They are coveted. They're really good rounding hammers. But Jay was famous for when he was helping guys out. He towards the end of his life, he had a walking stick, and he'd start beating you in the legs if you planted yourself at the anvil. If you weren't moving around the anvil, he'd just start whacking at your shins with that stick. Unfortunately, that was an experience I never got. They had passed on by the time I got to the West Coast, and really he was kind of done doing most clinics by the time I had really got going. But ideally, if I was in the dirt, you should see a track all the way around my ankle.
Well, for those of you who may remember when Ken Mermelstein was doing this, and also if you watch Gordon Williams, they're just little bundles of energy, and they're all around. Every surface of the anvil is used, and it's just amazing to watch those guys work. I know Gordon came from a farrier background, and man, just watch him work was amazing. So have you ever had a shoe or had a horse that was too wild to shoe?
Oh yeah, yeah. I've been shoeing horses for coming on 14 years, I think now. And the nice thing is that as you kind of move on in your career, you kind of move away from those horses, and it's a lot easier to say no now. You know, and that horse is going to give you a hard time to just walk away. It can hurt you real bad, real quick. And unfortunately, even the good ones can't. You know, you're working with a live animal that when you put that leg between your legs, you're tethered to, right, wrong, or indifferent. So you really try to mitigate those risks. Okay, so I got that where I want. So because I got so much mass in here, I want to ease this over the horn. And I hope you guys can see that. But I'm not hitting very hard. And then I'm going to sweep it across. And what that does is it gives me a nice flow. And that's a good organic shape. When we're building shoes, we want to go for an organic shape because that's what we're fitting. Even if it's a contest shoe, and this is going to sit on a table for a judge to look at, that judge is still a horseshoe. So they're going to want to see things like I did with the other one. You're going to see soft edges, safe shielding. That's really, really important. So in a contest setting, we're always checking measurements. Because we're supplied with measurements for the shoes. Real quick, while that's taking heat, this is a flyer that we would have for one of our contests. So we're supplied with the starting dimensions and the good pictures, and then information on the final shoe.
So in a contest like that, what's the context? Do you do this at home and bring it in, or do you actually have to do it live at?
You do it live there. So you're building the shoes there. Those contests go over 3 days. We have a two-man class, an individual class on the second day, and then if you're in the top 40 by the third day, you'll make a horseshoe that's going to go on a table, and you'll actually shoe 1 foot on a horse with a handmade shoe.
Sounds like a cool competition to watch.
Oh, it's a blast. I'd love to get them to come up to the Pacific Northwest. It would be great. And we do have local contests. We have the Oregon Farriers Association. They have a fall contest and clinic. And then the Washington State Farriers Association, actually, they do a lot of contests and clinics.
I don't know how many of you are watching your chat, but the auction is really heating up. Lynn has just bid $75 each for those horseshoes.
Watch out, Lynn. All right, I'm pretty happy with that shape coming through. And what I'm doing there is, see if I can show you. If you look at my ruler, you see how the inside web is a little lower than the outside web? all I'm doing when I'm coming through there is I'm bringing my hammer in and I'm setting that down and just tipping it to the inside. And what that does is that removes that pressure of the steel that's going to go against the horse's foot. Like I said, on the inside is more sensitive structures than the outside.
So how much adjustment do you do to the horse's hoof as you're shoeing them?
A fair bit. So because it's a semi-plastic structure and we're working against gravity, right? Gravity or force, it's going to distort. And as those lever arms get longer, the more distortion we'll get. Does that make sense?
Right.
So what we want to do is when we're trimming, we're trying to trim it back into balance to kind of help mitigate those lever arms on the foot. And what we can't do in a trim, then we'll use the shoe to compensate for it.
I imagine you also have to consider the change over time because you're dealing with an animal that's growing and moving and changing.
Absolutely. Yep. Yeah, and just like humans, over time they will become more flat-footed. The inevitable effect of gravity on physiology.
Yeah, those of us getting close to 60 feel that. So do all of those forging competitions follow that 3-day outline? Do they have mini conferences, things like that?
The WCB does. That's theirs. And then one thing that we lack in the States, and it's not by anybody's fault, it's just we're so separated. But if you were to go over to England, Scotland, Ireland, they have horse shows every weekend. And they'll have a horseshoeing contest associated with that horseshoe or that horse show. So those guys can compete every weekend through the summer if they want. It's amazing. And those will just be 1, maybe 2-day contests. Some contests will all run in 1 day. Some contests will run over 2. The World Championship Blacksmith, that runs over 3. And what that does is it's meant to be a learning experience too. Not everybody goes at the same time. You go in rounds of 10. But everybody from beginners to the international competitors are all making the exact same shoe. So you get to sit down and you get to watch some of the advanced competitors building these shoes. And you also make friends for life. I'm originally from upstate New York. And when I moved out to Oregon, I put the word out that I was going to be trucking my 2 horses cross country. And I had a place to stay and either a paddock or a stall to put my horses in every night. And they were all friends I'd made through competing.
Well, like your
the plain stamp shoe, we're just going to mitigate. We get what we call a fisheye effect. And that's where we're putting because it's a plain stamp shoe, what it does is it blows out some of the material. You see the shining spot, hopefully, where the nails are trying to come through. And all I'm doing is pushing that material back in to clean that up so that I don't have a ton to fix with the wrap. Sorry, John, you were going to ask a question.
I was going to say, like your story earlier, I think the blacksmithing community is shooting to have that kind of collegiality, and the term that pops to mind is brotherhood. But I want it to be inclusive. If forgive me, ladies, I don't want to make that sound wrong. But we're all part of the same family, and we're definitely trying to.
We're part of the same tribe.
Exactly.
That's a good use of the term.
Yes, Rochelle, sisterhood would work too. Maybe I can be an honorary member. Where's Lisa when I need her help? Bail me out. So are you dipping your punch in water or?
No, sorry, the punch goes in, it's called Forstner's hoof pack. Not entirely sure what it's made of. It's it's something that we'll use under a pad in a shoe, but it works really good as a grease for your tools to keep them lubricated and keep them cooled off. Sorry, we're almost done. I know I'm kind of sucked up your guys' time today.
Oh, we're at 11:12. I most of these when we do these live, they're usually 3 hours, so we kind of understand.
Oh,
And
okay.
you know, I think
So I'm not,
an hour and a half
I'm
isn't
not
way out
completely,
of line.
okay. I was worried. So when I'm punching these, especially through a heavier section of stock like this, I only go about 3/8 or a third to halfway through. And what that'll do is that gives me the mark on the back of the shoe to kind of see where I'm at. But I can also get rid of those frog eyes.
So I missed that last comment. Does that make for a more even nail hole?
It does. What it does is it creates flow in my section that I don't have to fix with a rasp.
Okay.
Because as that punch goes in, it wants to blow that section
Right.
out. So I'm trying to mitigate how much I have to do with a hot rasp. And some of these contests will have what we call hammer finish shoes. You cannot hot rasp on them. So then you have to be really precise with your forging.
One comment: 5 minutes at the anvil saves how much at the vise?
A lot. a lot of unwanted cardio.
The lube that you use, is that just a matter of convenience, or is it that much, so effective that you don't have to have a special lube or anything?
It's so effective, I don't really need. I mean, you can use bar soap. A lot of guys use Irish Spring. A lot of guys use beeswax. I used bar soap, Irish Spring for a long time. Works really good. I never really was a fan of beeswax, partly because once it gets on your anvil, it's really slippery. Okay, so now I got my shoe mostly done. We're going to put a toe clip on it real quick. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the calipers, I'm going to scribe through, and I'm going to find my center point, and I'm going to mark that so that my toe clip goes in the center of the shoe. It's important to make sure your calipers are tight. All right, 2 feet on that. So instead of using the cross beam to draw the clip, I got a cone hammer that I'm going to use. That tall of a section, it's hard to get enough material down and over the edge of the anvil with the cross beam because it's such a focused area that you're hitting.
Is that one of those specialized farrier tools, or is that something that you made?
No, it is a specialized farrier tool. Jim Ford out of Flatland Ford makes really nice ones. And then there's a bunch of guys making handmade hammers too. My buddy Riley Kirkpatrick, who's also an NWA member, he was supposed to do a demo at the spring clinic, and unfortunately we know how that all went. But he makes some beautiful hammers and tongs as well. We're going to have to wrap up soon. So battery's dying. Now we're really on the clock, John.
Yeah, that'll do it. Just, you know, having to do something or having to meet a deadline is a good motivator.
Right. Okay, so again, I'm just going to hang this section over, tip the shoe up, and right now this, instead of hitting straight into the corner of the ankle, I'm actually trying to shear a bit down first. Okay, now I'm going to start hitting into the corner of the ankle. You can see what I brought over. And ideally, we don't want to get too far in the section. We took all that time building this toe. We don't want to wreck it with a hammer.
I'm going to guess that you're trying to leave as much weight-bearing surface for the horse on the ground as well as to pull that clip out, right?
Yes, yes and no. Well, yes and yes. Also, the shoe will not, we have more material for it to wear. Remember, these horses are working on the cobbles. So this shoe will wear out really fast. Typically, when they were shoeing road horses with these, that shoe would wear out in about 4 weeks. They'd have to put new ones on. There was no resetting these shoes. A lot of work for every 4 weeks. But when you didn't have an internal combustion engine, that was it.
All right, so we've got bids up to $100 for the Roadster. Thank you, Sean. And I got a question about using aluminum for shoes.
Yep.
Do you cold forge them, or what's the process?
The pre-manufactured ones, yes, you can. And it really comes down to the alloy of the aluminum. Aluminum comes in a bunch of different alloys. But we do, every once in a while, we'll have aluminum shoes we have to make with a contact. And we will do them in the coke fire. And that'll make you hold your breath because you can't see your heat. So one of the ways to check your heat for aluminum is we'll come out and we'll take our hammer handle, we'll run it down. And if it draws on the aluminum like a crayon and doesn't burn off, it's at a great forging temperature. If that crayon mark burns off, don't hit it. Let it sit on your anvil, because what it'll do is it's gonna hot short, right? It crumbles. It will just come apart. So I'm pretty happy with how this is all laid out. I'm gonna bring this branch in, and we'll do a quick rasp up, or I can rasp up afterwards, and we could do the shop tour after that. It's up to you guys.
That's kind of up to you, man. You're in control.
Why don't I do the rasp up later? You guys saw me rasp up on the other shoe. And we'll, let me just fix the shape on this. You can see what it is. You can also see I got to turn the caulk in line of travel with the shoe. How I'm going to do that is I'm going to come out here. I'm going to put that outside heel. I'm going to put the caulk right on the heel of the anvil, and I'm going to hit into it, and I'm going to pick up. And what that's going to do is it's going to take that surface that's square with the branch right now, and it's going to turn it in line with the shoe. Did that make sense about the aluminum?
It did to me. I've seen aluminum forged. I haven't done it myself, but I've watched some demos. Hopefully that answered the question.
The other reason we might use aluminum is because we could put a thicker section on with less weight.
I got a comment from Claire. We want to don't give you a bag of coal and just live stream your fire. It's so cool to watch.
Like the holiday fire at Christmas.
Exactly.
Just set that down. So bring this branch down. All right. There's the flat. All right. And there's the roadster.
That's beautiful.
Like I said, I'll do a good cleanup on this and it'll look good and polished when I'm done.
This is the part where he would hand it around for everybody to get hands on with it.
Yep.
Gotta have that touchy feely, man. I wish I could reach through the screen to hold it.
Okay, so one thing I wanted to talk about, and John, you should touch on this really at the end, is the organization that I've competed with in the past and still a member of is the WCB, World Championship Blacksmith. And they do a fundraiser drive each year where they sell butcher block brushes. They can buy them off the internet. Last I looked, they're $28 a pop, and all $28 goes to the Susan G. Komen Foundation. And the motto is, I don't know if you can read it, but it says, "Don't brush off the festival."
Yep. I think Billy O was kind enough to get that link posted back in the chat. So those
Fantastic.
of you who are on chat, scroll on up and check that out.
Okay. Should we do a shop tour?
Yes, please. So we got a couple of things that people have asked about. Somebody wants to see the blower that you're using on your fire.
Unfortunately, I can't. It's in the ceiling.
Oh, okay.
It's upstairs. But all it is a bounce house blower. You buy them on Amazon, $190 or something like that. They work fantastic. And a lot of times you can even mount them outside. I think most of them are water resistant at least.
So it keeps a little bit of the noise down, huh?
Yes. Yeah. It used to be mounted to the forge. And as you can imagine, it would rattle this and stuff would just vibrate everywhere.
So how do you control the flow? You have just a gate
gate
valve? Or?
Yep, just an air gate valve. I don't know if you can, tell me if you can see this stuff, John.
Yeah, we can see it fine. Yeah, that's cool.
Big fire pot. And then just recently, the hearth was so wide, I was having to take almost a 50-pound bag of coke. You know, and when you're running a coke fire, it is constant fire management. You have to be consistently working on your fire. Otherwise, you won't get consistent heat. So what I did was I just got some fire brick and essentially just closed the hearth up. And boy, that's just made such a difference in being able to manage my fire really well. And then I have an NC 3-burner forge.
Uh-oh, I think we might have lost Kurt. Yeah, we knew he was running out of battery. Thanks again to Kurt for doing this demo for us.